Society in A Christmas Carol. As well as being a writer, Charles Dickens was a social reformer. He was passionate about trying to improve society, particularly for the poor. It drove many of his stories, where he tackled ideas about education, the law, workhouses, prison, and the political system, amongst many others. Dickens wrote a great deal of journalism as editor of a weekly magazine and was an enthusiastic letter writer, having many letters on social subjects published in the national newspapers, as well as his own private correspondence. He also gave lectures and supported an enormous number of good causes and actively worked behind the scenes to help people in need. In conclusion, Charles Dickens was a well-informed individual about the shortcomings of society and was most active in trying to do something about it. Of all his books, A Christmas Carol is probably the most informed by this reforming desire. The book was initially prompted by a government report which revealed the appalling conditions children as young as 5 had to endure in the workplace. Like many others, Dickens was outraged and was desperate to do something to challenge society to rethink their attitudes. After toying with the idea of writing a pamphlet, Dickens decided to write a short novel which he hoped, in his words, would strike a sledgehammer blow on behalf of the poor, children especially. Dickens was very conscious about the growing gap in society between the rich and the poor. Like Fred, he saw a growing disconnection between the haves and the have-nots, which was only briefly reversed during Christmas time. Scrooge is a symptom of this disconnection. He shows no empathy, no compassion for the poor, even going as far to tell the portly gentleman, who symbolized charity in the story, that it would be better if the surplus poor died and so stopped being a burden on society. It's none of his business. Later, Marley bemoans how he divorced himself from society, lamenting how he should have realized that mankind was my business. He warns Scrooge to avoid the mistake he made and to change his ways. This is why he arranges for the visits by the Christmas ghosts, who will make Scrooge really see the world around him properly. Their job is to reconnect Scrooge to society and to reverse his solitary as an oyster attitude towards people. Scrooge is forced to see the error of his ways by being shown the surplus. He witnesses the simple, honest lives of the Cratchits, who, despite their hard poverty, are still able to eke out some enjoyment from life. It's significant that the Ghost of Christmas Present also takes Scrooge to see others who are symbolically or literally on the edges of society, such as prisoners, the sick, sailors far out to sea, miners who work below the ground, in order to demonstrate how the spirit of Christmas doesn't discriminate and, in fact, echoing Fred's earliest sentiments, momentarily unites people. And it works. Scrooge is moved by the plight of Tiny Tim, and is sorrowful when he is told that Tim is doomed to die if nothing changes. When confronted by the two poor children, Ignorance and Want, who are so degraded that they are barely human, Scrooge shows concern and asks if nothing can be done to help them. In both instances, Scrooge's hard, unfeeling words from the opening chapter are thrown back at him. The Ghost of Christmas Present's sharp rebuke isn't just for Scrooge, but also for the reader and society as a whole. Remember that only the well-off would have been able to afford to read A Christmas Carol, since it originally cost 5 shillings, or a third of Bob's weekly wage. Ultimately, what Dickens and the book wants its readers to do in order to mend society is to show charity, not just in terms of giving money to worthy causes, but also in terms of Christian charity. In other words, to show compassion and understanding for the poor, and, like Scrooge at the end of Stay 4, to honour Christmas in our heart and try to keep it all the year.